Hello, everyone. Welcome to GSS Work Search Webinar, Job Search Skills During COVID-19. And my name is Lu Li, and I'm GSS Director of Student Life. But before I hand the mic over to our presenters, I have a couple of housekeeping items to mention. First, all participants are muted throughout the webinar, but we would like to hear from you during today's presentation. So we have a Q&A part at the end. So if you have a question or any comments, you can either type it into the chat box or you can mute yourself and ask your questions during the Q&A. And second, so at the end of the event, we will draw 5 random lucky winners. So I will just assign a random number to every of you and then offer a $10 gift card to each person. Yeah, I want to thank our presenters for being with us today. I will now pass it over to you, Micheal.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this will work. Okay. Okay. So Pedram, can you see that? Okay, so I'm assuming everybody else can and everyone else can hear me. Okay, just give me a sec here. Okay, so thank you for Lulu. Thank you for inviting us to speak today, and thank you everybody for showing up for this webinar. It's a very nice evening in Vancouver, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here for this, especially given that tomorrow it's supposed to rain. So you know, here we are enjoying this evening, and we'll try not to take too much of your time. This is an important topic. You know, it's relevant to everybody right now, and that we hope that you find some value in it. And again, thanks to GSS for inviting us. At the end, I think Lulu mentioned, there'll be time for questions. So if you want to, take some notes, or I think you can write in the chat a question that we'll take at the end of the presentation. Okay, so let me get back to my presentation here. Okay, so first of all, who are we? I'm Micheal Ford, as was mentioned. I'm a graduate student with educational psychology, and Pedram will introduce himself when he starts his part of the presentation. I also have experience in career services at SFU. I was a senior career peer for about a year and a half, where I met with students one-on-one to do with their career plans and resumes and cover letters. I also have a deep interest in career development, and also how COVID, the pandemic, will affect the future of work. It's something I might look at in my studies, so we will see. But anyway, I'm glad to be here, and I'm just going to cover a few things. So before we get into the nuts and bolts, the reason you're here, to hear some information about job search skills in these times, I want to talk about uncertainty. So I know that some of you are launching your career now. Some of you will be launching your career, later when you finish your studies. But overall, I just want to acknowledge that, there's a lot of anxiety right now. There's a lot of emotions around this, and it's an uncertain time for sure. So we understand that you're all going through a lot, and there are other resources for you through SFU, through counseling and health services, also the career services department, which I will mention throughout this presentation. So I just want you to ask yourself a question in terms of uncertainty. 5 years ago, where did you expect to be today? Was where you are today, is that where you expected you would be? Because if you're like most people, you probably didn't expect you would be in this exact spot right now. I know that I wasn't. My own personal story is, I went to SFU, graduated in communications, about 30 years ago. So longer than some of you have been alive, probably. I don't want to make any assumptions, but it was a while ago. And I've had, many career changes. I've had lots of uncertainty, throughout that process, some self-driven, some through my own circumstances, others externally imposed on me, like a recession, and today, like a pandemic. I mean, in March, I was looking for work. I had an interview at a university for a position in career services, career development, and I was going to be brought in to meet the team. And then the university was shut down because of COVID, and that was the end of that. So there's no way that I could have planned that, and there's no way any of us could have planned, been ready for this. So. Times are always uncertain, no question about it, for all of us. I just want to read a quote from a book, if I may. This book is called Most Likely to Succeed. It's about preparing our kids for the innovation era. It's quite a good book. And I'm just going to read a quote from this. It says, "The conveyor belt of the last century is gone. Lifetime employment with a large company is increasingly unlikely. Individuals will change jobs, companies, and even professions many times in their lifetime. In today's world, if you can't invent or reinvent your own job and distinctive competencies, you risk chronic underemployment." So basically, all that does is demonstrate that over time, there's always going to be uncertainty and always going to be change. And, we'll have to adapt to that. That's not to underplay the crisis and disruption that we're experiencing right now, for sure. So regarding finding work and the challenges of finding work is work. It's always been work, and it always will be. It will always be challenging, no matter what. In fact, 95% of people generally can say throughout their career that they have experienced challenges finding work at some point. So, right now it's tremendously challenging. But for a lot of people, it's always been that way. So landing that first job, University of Washington did a study, and they found that it can take college graduates an average of 3 to 6 months to land that first position after graduation. So, that's what we're looking at in a non-COVID time, non-pandemic time. It's just good to get perspective. So, for instance, the crisis, like the 2008 recession and COVID, what they really do is they intensify challenges that are already existing. But essentially what worked before COVID will probably work now with some adjustments. And when we get to the second half of this presentation, Pedram will talk more about what some of the adjustments might be. Okay, so let's talk about context. As with everything, our topic comes down to context. So let's talk about that. Over 3 million jobs were lost between February and April due to the coronavirus restrictions. The restrictions, we all know about that. We all know what happened after that in terms of the economy, things being shut down, jobs lost. The unemployment rate, let's talk about that. In June, the unemployment rate was 12.3%, down from 13.7% in May, according to StatsCan. So it is coming down. 953,000 jobs were added in June. That's according to BMO's June quarterly report on labor market trends. And over the last 2 months, as of July 13th, the labor market has recovered by 40%. And more than 1.24 million people have found employment. So these, it's really challenging right now. to recover what we've lost, but there are positive signs, and the labor market is showing signs of recovery. There are government programs. The wage subsidy to help business retain and rehire employees has been extended. So that will hopefully help in terms of companies being able to rehire. But still, that, you know, this is a historic crisis. It still persists. It can't be ignored. You can't sugarcoat it. It is what it is. Particularly hard hit are youth, and that's between 15 and 24 years old. The unemployment rate in June was a staggering 27.5%. But again, that was down from 29.4% the previous month. So there are signs of things changing. And so the real question is, you know, how do we cope? How do we cope? You know, where are the possibilities during this time? So what is a person to do? So some of us are better at coping with uncertainty than others. For instance, my 10-year-old daughter, not so good at coping with uncertainty. But you know, we all have to learn how to cope. And some of us, as I said, are launching our career. Some of us are about to launch our career. So we're all in different sort of stages. You know, I know Lulu, I was talking to earlier this week or last week, and you know, she had anticipated, you know, finishing her graduate studies, you know, a certain sector being open, and jobs being advertised, and they've frozen, you know, those postings for now. So, you know, what do we do? Well, one thing we can do is we can take this time that we have to explore the job market, and you know, look at opportunities. You know, there's always new jobs coming along as older jobs are being phased out. That happens all the time, especially now with technology. So, you know, for instance, the job contact tracing, like, you know, I never even heard of that job, you know, a couple of months ago, but now it exists as an opportunity. And every opportunity you get, no matter what it is, you're going to learn things. You're going to enhance your skills. You're going to build your resume. The other thing is SFU Career Services. You know, if you want to explore the job market, if you want to explore, you know, what the opportunities are, you can make an appointment with someone at SFU Career Services. You know, as a student or even an alum, you can get free one-on-one appointments, which is a pretty good deal, actually. Also, at the end of the session, we created a resource page, a document that we will send out for those who are interested, with a lot more resources, a lot more web links, YouTube videos, reports, you know, all kinds of resources that you can take advantage of. The other thing you can do is look for short-term opportunities instead of having a long-term plan and being focused on that. The one thing you can do is you can continue professional development, continue your education. Now, I know some of you are still in, you know, university, so that's a given. But for those of you who have finished and are wanting to move on to work, you know, there are opportunities to pursue other forms of professional development, to gain, you know, soft skills, more hard skills, and also, you know, an opportunity to just do things, interact with people, get out, maybe volunteer. Again, you know, turning the negative into the positive and getting some more experience. And Pedram will talk a lot more about those kind of things. The fact of the matter is, I mean, there's, as much as we would like to this not to be true, there's always going to be other personal and social crises and challenges that come along. This is not the last one. So this gives us an opportunity to really practice and to learn how to pivot and make some changes as we go along. There's an opportunity to rethink our short-term plan. A lot of us have had, like I talked about in my story, we had short-term plans maybe 6 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And, you know, and that for many of us, you know, we've had to make many adjustments and to rethink the short-term plan, maybe have the long-term plan in, you know, in mind, but to make some changes for the short term. This reminds me of how we all think about careers. You know, while we all would like to see a straight line, we graduate, we get a job, we get promoted, that we climb up the ladder. That's not typically how it works anymore. It's kind of a flawed model by this point. We change, we shift careers, we evolve, just as the society does. As the society is changing, so are we, and so are the opportunities. So this is sort of an example of how it goes. So if you think of your next job as your next job, not necessarily your career, because your career will be something you look back on over time. So in short, we may have to rethink the short-term plan. The other thing we can do is look for peripheral opportunities. So we may find an industry that's hiring in a certain area that we're not interested in or trained in, but because they're hiring in that area, they might need support services that we are interested in. So looking at companies that are hiring in certain areas and try to connect the dots and see if there are other opportunities that we can tap into. So in the end, we need to explore our careers, but we also need to accept the uncertainty. We need to practice resilience, and that comes over time. Some people are practicing mindfulness more often to just sort of stay in the moment and be patient, be flexible, be curious about what other opportunities there are out there. To take risks right now is a good time to do that as much as we can, to be persistent, and to reflect on what we're learning through the process. So I know this is all, fairly abstract, but I think if we practice it and we're aware of it, and it can shift our perspective and allow us to, to really move our career forward over time. No doubt the next 4 or 5 years could be, difficult, but like previous challenges and crises like the 2008 recession, over time, things will improve. I'm going to turn it over to Pedram now to talk about, the real reason you're here is to get the practical tips about searching for a job right now. So I should unshare my screen. Okay, Pedram, are you there?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so just wait a second. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
I can.
So, thank Micheal for your very good presentation. We really enjoy it. I really want to thank Lulu as well and the whole GSS team to give us this opportunity to stay in here, and all of the presenter that give the time in this very quiet, very awesome weather to just let alone all the activities they can do, but to stay in here. I'm a graduate student as well. I'm a computer scientist, and I also am volunteering in career peer educator. We are going to do lots of advising on cover letter, the resume, and something like that. So if anyone would like to have some information and tips about that, feel free to just box in. So as Micheal talks about the mental and the general perspective of how COVID and this kind of situation is going to change, right now I'm going to give some helpful tips that you can take, some small tips that you can take in order to overcome in this kind of situation. So right now, the first thing is that how to search during the COVID. So there are lots of jobs that are on hold, but this is not for all of them. So we cannot say that all of our jobs are going to be on hold. There are lots of opportunities that are available right now. So you just need to explore those and make yourself available for them. The other thing that we want to talk about in this session is that how we can set up our online presence, because it is really important in these days. The online presence are such as the LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that lots of hiring manager are looking for when they want to hire a person in this kind of situation. The other thing that we won't cover in this session is during this time is very good time that you can compile a well-written CV and a cover letter resume. So you are going to make yourself prepare for the next time that this COVID is going to be take over. So it is really important that you take your time to invest on yourself and your CV, resume, and something that you will require in the future. Other thing is that, so definitely we are going to have some virtual interview right now because there is no one-on-one and in-person kind of interview right now. So I'm going to talk about a little bit how you can be more vital and more engaging responses to kind of virtual interview. In addition, for that, I'm going to say that, so right now, maybe you're not going to have some hiring, but it is not the end of the story. So we will have some hiring in the future. So you just need to stay on radar for the possible jobs in the future. How you're going to do that, we will cover in this session. In addition, you need to train your mind and be self-organized during this time. This is going to be a very great time that all of us are facing. But as Micheal just said, you can always take negative into positive. But by just taking this opportunity as a way to develop on yourself and increase the possibility and look for your ideal job in future and just develop the skills that you might need during this time. And so at first we will talk about online presence or the virtual networking. A very interesting investigation of some companies shows that 68% of employers hired their staff just based on the social network. And this is really amazing number that we can see right now. So I just want to show that this is really important, that your social presence and your online presence is really important, and the hiring manager are really looking for them. The most important thing is going to be the LinkedIn. So you really need to leverage LinkedIn and master that. We are not going to cover exactly how to do so, but we just want to take some steps of at least some hints. So what you need to do on LinkedIn and how you can showcase your skills there. So if you see right now, the mystery of networking is that when you get to know with one person, you're not just familiar and get connection with that person. You're going to connect with the whole network of that person as well. So right now you kind of see that how this connection can go easily into a giant network that you can find lots of opportunities. So with no doubt, these days having the social network and online presence is inevitable for the people that are really looking for finding some job that they really want. Another tips that you can take in mind is to Google search yourself. So what does that mean is that lots of hiring manager right now are going to search your name. So maybe in some cases there is no relevant post or website coming up. Sorry, but it is really important that you show your case and present in the online website. So how you can do that is you can reflect your personality in the post and shares and comments. So there are lots of communities, there are lots of social media and everything that really requires lots of conversation and something like that. So it is really important that you engage in them and show that you are really a or academic or a business kind of environment. So this is really important for them, that lots of your time and effort are actually inserted in those kind of things. In addition, you can include your insights generously. So if you have found something or you have done something, you can put it in lots of online resources. Make it open source. If, for example, if it is a code or some project that you have done. So there are lots of websites that you can make it online so that other people can enjoy, and you're actually going to grow the community. In addition, it's really important that you are going to ask and answer some questions. So it is really important that you present in the online media. And the most important thing is that you never want to over promote yourself. This is really important, that no matter what you do, just don't focus or highlight on something that you don't have enough experience of. So right now we are looking at some interesting result as well. So it says that if you have rejected a candidate just based on the social media, yes or no. So 69% said that yes, we have rejected a candidate just because of the social media. And just 5% said that we don't look at it. So I just want to show some of the most important ones in here. So what were the most important reasons that they decided to reject that possible candidate? The most important one is about lying about their qualification. Is the same as we talk, not over promote yourself. The other factors can be posting some inappropriate photos or inappropriate comments that shows that you are not that kind of business or academic person. In addition, so you post some negative comments about your previous employer, or you have shown to have some poor communication skills. These are the most important factors that some candidate just was ignored because of their negative social skills, social presence, sorry. So right now we want to talk about how to connect with people virtually. So what is important? Why is that important? Because as we talked before, lots of interviews are going to be virtual. In addition, lots of the coffee chat or the some kind of availability that we have to talk with new people are going to change into virtual as well. So it is really important that you know how you can change, how you can adapt yourself in this new era. So I'm just going to give you some tips to be considered when you're going to have some virtual communication with someone, no matter it is an interview or it's a coffee chat or something like that. The first thing is that it is your camera. So lots of laptops these days are going to have a fair enough camera. If not, you can take some of well-known cameras, such as Logitech or some other plug-in cameras. But make sure that your camera is ready to be used, because no one would like to talk with someone that actually does not show himself. Another thing is about lighting. So make sure that the lighting is enough and everything looks professional. So natural lights are preferred, but if not, so if the time is in the right night or something like that, it's okay to use the lights in the house. The other important thing is the angle of the camera that is showing you. So it should be eye level. So what that means is that it shouldn't be too up or it shouldn't be too down. So you shouldn't look like this or this to the camera. That doesn't make very good impression on the person that you're talking to. So it's better to have a eye level angle of the camera. It's better to have a wall in the background, so not be in a hallway or lots of stuff behind you because it's going to distract. And it's also need to showcase that you're in a working environment. So, for example, a desk or I don't know, your computer or something like that would be a good choice of your environment that you're in. And generally, you should look just as professional over the camera as you do when you do normally. So I mean, normally in person. So by that, I mean, just dress as you do when you want to go in person with someone. So dress appropriately and have everything ready for yourself. So another important factor that I want to talk right now is about the developing the soft or hard skills. So what does that mean? So right now, if there are lots of opportunities that are canceled or you cannot apply anymore, so there's always a plan B. So right now, it is a great idea to develop on your soft or hard skills. So what you can do, the most important thing is that you look for the skills that are required for your dream job. So you just search online. A good website could be Career Cruising, that there are lots of people who already have that job. They share their insight and say that, okay, we already have this job and these are the skills that this job requires. So you should just keep in mind those as well. Another important thing that you can do during this time is to take some online courses and empower your hard skills. So there are lots of resources such as Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and etc. that you can take to develop your hard skills. In addition, you can empower your soft skills as well. So how you can do that? You can do it by taking initiative and being volunteer. Being volunteer would help you to overcome the anxiety and have some feeling of being helpful. So there are lots of websites that you can look for possible volunteering options, such as Go Volunteer, which is for the whole Canada, and my involvement or my experience that are specified for the SFU websites. So by soft skills, we can talk about something like leadership skills, like, for example, communication skills. So those kind of things that are not something that you can go and learn. So you just need to gain them just when you are opposed to in that situation. So they're just obtained when you have those interactions with other people. So communication skills, having some time management, all of these are soft skills that are just obtained when you have the opportunity to participate in the real situation. So right now we have seen that there are lots of jobs that are actually very decreased or they are stopped, but on the other hand, there are lots of jobs that are more in demand, and there are more hiring than before in those kind of job. So I'm not going to say that you change your career way, but if you just take a look and consider the Steve Jobs comment on you cannot connect the dots if you're looking forward, you can just do so by looking backward, which means that don't hesitate to experience lots of different things and just explore, and don't stop and limit your exploration. It's better to consider lots of different opportunities that may bring something to you. They should may look not very logical for you at first, but if you take some steps and when you look backward, you see that how they can be connected and help me through my final goal. I just want to talk about some of these in-demand jobs. The developers, helpdesk, and IT guys are really in demand these days because there are lots of opportunities going to be online, especially for the online shops, such as the Amazon, Shopify. This kind of websites are actually very growing, and they require lots of new hiring. In addition, the sales representative, both the retail clerk and the warehouse worker. So if you see that they're kind of making the fact that the people cannot go outside, so there are these kind of opportunities that facilitate providing the human beings of their needs are going to grow. The nurse and healthcare, of course, and so the transportation, the trucks, and the call center and advertisements, as it was in ever. So these jobs are really in demand. You can just search for them if you really want to have one, or no, as we talked before, you can just develop your soft skills. So right now, this was the end of the discussion. We are back to Lolo, and we're going to take some questions if you have in the context of the Q&A. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Me and Michael are listening for any comments or questions that you might have.
Okay, so hi, guys. So if you have any questions, so you can ask the presenters now.
Hi, I have a question. Firstly, thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is with respect to LinkedIn. It might be a little bit of a silly question, but are there any risks in terms of privacy or identity theft by setting up a LinkedIn profile? Thank you.
Pedram, did you come across any of that in your research?
Yes, I think LinkedIn, like lots of other websites that are going to encounter as one of the most important community. I think it's not going to be a problem with the privacy. I'm pretty sure that you can set up lots of a privacy concern that you have. And I think it is not an easy job to hack those websites. So apart from that, you can show whatever you want. So if there's something that you may concern to be theft, so it's better not to include it in your LinkedIn profile. But the main reason for the LinkedIn is to showcase your skills and experience. So you can just include your skills and experience, but not include your personal information or something that can be maybe can be used by others.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any identity theft issues with LinkedIn either. But I mean, you could certainly do some research about that, I'm sure, and I'm sure that's not a question that other people haven't asked as well. So it's a good question. Another one? I think someone has their hand up. Is it Pallavi?
Hi, yeah. Thank you for the session. I had a question specifically for Michael. So I'm a postgraduate student and I've just graduated and I'm looking for full-time jobs.
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, I was also planning to work on a part-time job till I can secure a job that I want to do on the long term. But I've been struggling to find a part-time job as well. I'm wondering if you have any tips around that. I wonder if it's my background. So I have worked in investment banking. I I'm not sure if it's my profile and that I have that much of experience that is hindering from me getting a part-time job as well, since it's usually, school students or who
Yeah.
are just undergrads who usually get those jobs. So do you have any recommendations on how I can go about securing a part-time job for now?
Are you looking for part-time work in your field, or anything really?
Anything in my field or even retail or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because, I mean, right now, I would imagine there's a lot of people applying for work, but I think one strategy is to what Pedram was mentioning, where he listed the uh, the industries that are still hiring right now, are possibly even hiring more so than they were before COVID. And you know, in the document that we will be circulating afterwards, there are some extra resources in there that you can look at and listen to, and you might get some ideas about where you can apply. I mean, I think that's a challenge with people with post with advanced degrees at this point, looking for part-time work in areas that maybe they're overqualified for. Uh, Pedram, do you have any suggestions or ideas?
Yes, thanks for your comment. It was very great, but I was thinking as well for you can just look for something in the lots of websites that are offering the jobs, such as Indeed, Glassdoor, or something like that. And if you just search for these opportunities that I just mentioned, something like the retail manager, the warehouse jobs, the retail jobs, and something like that, I think you would probably find a couple of jobs. So the rates of the payments are not that good, but it is still a job that you can consider as your career.
The other thing is, I was just thinking, is to use your network as much as possible. Excuse me. So that could be a professor, somebody in advising, someone in your own personal network who who may assume that you're looking for a certain type of work, full-time work in your field, but sometimes it's letting people know who what you're looking for, and that you just need something part-time for the moment, short-term, and they may have something or know someone. And I know it sounds like that maybe that might not be a possibility, but you never know until you try. So that's a tough one, and I don't have a firm, solid answer. I don't think anybody does, but I think it's being creative, it's being persistent, it's making sure you have a good resume. And the other thing too is what I mentioned before. Career Services at SFU has some highly qualified individuals, both staff and career peers, who can help you with those kind of things. So that's a place I would start, and to express those that question and those concerns, for sure.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I'll look forward to the job resources as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? If you don't have any specific questions, you might also think about what might be a concern that you have right now. What is there something you're anxious about related to careers? I don't know how many of you on this webinar are looking for part-time work, looking for full-time work, are still in school, have finished. It all depends on where you're at. But some people have a real concern or a real issue that they're anxious about, or that they're worried about, or that they just they don't know any, they don't have the answer. And we can't, guarantee that we have an answer, but we can certainly talk about it. Leah? Hey.
Yes, hello. Thank you for your presentation here. I'm curious about your thoughts on sort of how the timeline for job searches connects, or often more accurately disconnects from the semester timeline. So for instance, I'm working as a sessional instructor right now, which ties me to a part-time job for a 4-month period, which makes it then hard to get a full-time job that starts anytime within that sort of period. So I'm sort of in a position of trying to negotiate. I had an interview where I said, well, yes, I would want to start part-time for the first few months and then move to full-time. I don't know if that's part of the reason why I wasn't successful at that position. So it's sort of either, quit a course partway through, which is really not an option, or take the risk of being entirely unemployed for a full semester. And the jobs within the list of industries that are hiring regularly just simply aren't accessible to me as someone who can't be in public at all right now. So, I'm really looking for a remote work, like student affairs sorts of positions is what I've been applying for and networking for, but I've either been overqualified or underqualified for basically everything that I've been connecting with.
So you're looking for looking forward to a time after you're finished this current part-time position that you have, and you're hoping you're hoping to get something full-time at that point.
Yes, but it's the sort of knowing that timing wouldn't line up. So I guess like how amenable do you find employers are from what you've learned about things like saying, I'd like to only work 4 days a week for the first, until the end of the semester, so I can then take on something.
Right. Well, I mean, my philosophy on that is if you find a position that seems suitable to you, or that you're interested in, there's no harm in contacting the company or the organization and finding out who's the hiring manager, and talking to that person and asking the question, I'm really interested in this position. Here's my situation. I think I'm highly qualified. I think I'd be a good candidate. Would you consider, a half-time position for the next 3 months and then I start full-time, or do you need someone to start full-time right away? And depending upon the answer, if it's a negative for you, at least you made a contact with that person. And if they say, well, no, we need someone full-time right now, you can say, well, okay, I understand that. Could I connect with you in 3 months and go for coffee and find out a little bit more about that type of work? And then you've sort of created a relationship with somebody, right? And then you can hook in with them on LinkedIn, and it starts the process. That's not necessarily going to get you that job, so it all lines up. As soon as you finish a part-time job, you walk into a full-time job. It's not necessarily going to get you that, but at least it will get you a contact. And you never know, because if you make an impression on that person, 3 months down the road, and you recontact the person, say, I know you filled that position. Are you aware of anything else anywhere that I might look at? That person might know of something. So that's that. And typically, they say, I don't know what their percentage is, but it's quite high. Like 80% of jobs are never advertised. It's all the people skills and the people that you meet and talk to. Now, obviously, if you're looking at a university, they're required to post certain positions, so that might not apply in that case. But
and HR at SFU really will not release names of hiring people. Right. I've definitely learned that. I've attempted that and basically been stonewalled.
Yeah.
So unless I just happen to know, or the department, or
I mean. Yeah,
at the website that says, I'm pretty stuck on that.
I guess I was thinking, if you know the department, and it's a specific, like say it's a advisor position or something in a certain department, sometimes it's fairly easy to find out who the manager is in charge of that, and don't even go to HR, go directly to the department. I mean, that's what I would suggest. There's no harm in doing that. All they can say is, sorry, you're going to have to talk to HR. You know, sometimes it takes a little bit of like ingenuity and, you know, persistence. And Pedram, do you have any comments on that?
No, you already mentioned everything, but I think the important thing as well, you said, as she already has some connection with them, so it is very great opportunity for her to go and talk for some future opportunity. So I think right now she is one step ahead than the others. If they had the job, so they can easily offer. I think, yes, talking with the managers and the staff there is the best choice in here.
I also think that if I can mention one more thing is, I can't remember if you said that you did apply to some positions and you were either overqualified or you know, they didn't see.
I've been overqualified. I've been underqualified. Sometimes I just haven't heard back, and I've had a couple of canceled searches right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, I've worked with a lot of students on their resumes, and I think, you know, that resume is, you know, the purpose is to basically open a door for you, right? And after that, you get an interview, and then it's up to you during the interview to express your skills and your personality and that sort of thing. But I think with a resume, you can tailor it specifically. I always say, you know, have a opening section that is like a highlight or profile section, and that section should be, you know, altered, edited, changed for every single job you apply for, particularly if you're applying for different types of jobs, so that you can, you know, position yourself as, you know, a good match for a position. Also, you can reorder your resume so that if something in your past relates more to a certain position than maybe another position, you can move that closer to the top. And then also by having a strong cover letter and all those things. Again, you know, I've said it before about, you know, going to career services at SFU, getting a one-on-one appointment with one of the professionals or the career peers can really make a difference in how you, because it's all perception, right? It's all how people perceive you. So yeah, I think that might be something you might want to look at.
Yeah, I haven't yet visited them, so that is helpful, but it is encouraging to know that generally speaking, the things that you're suggesting are things I've been doing. One sort of final question is, in terms of networking, sometimes I see postings that say, you know, no phone calls or emails, please. But then on the flip side, there's this sort of wisdom that like you have to network to get a position. If it specifically says don't, sometimes I wonder, maybe the position did just go to someone who was bold enough to do so, and those of us who are kind of shy on that are just missing out. What would your perspective be there?
Are you saying no phone calls like on a job posting, you mean?
Yeah, on a job posting.
Okay.
Yeah, if it says like, please do not contact us, online submissions only.
Yeah,
especially for government positions, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they don't want to be inundated with calls. I mean, again, I think it comes down to if you can figure out who within the department. Like personally, if I was in that situation, I would try to find out, you know, what the department is, go into LinkedIn, go into the company website, try to figure out who that person is, or who a person might be who's connected to the right person, and go on LinkedIn and just try to make a connection and just say, you know, do you have, you know, 10 minutes to do an informational interview or something? And particularly nowadays, as Pedram was saying, people are more available for virtual coffee chats. I think a lot of people are at home. You know, they've lost connection with a lot of their coworkers. So some people like to connect with people during the day, you know. So I don't know, Pedram, anything?
Yes, also I think it's better that you talk to someone who is already working there, not specifically talking to the manager. I think even if you talk to a person who already works there, and having an idea like a coffee chat would help you a lot. So asking, what are the opportunities right now, how I can get in, what are the qualifications required for the job, something like that would help you a lot to get more information of the situation. And this would be as an important factor for socialization as well.
Thanks so much.
So I think there is another question from Payu. I'm not sure if I'm reading it right. He said that if I want to create a small business, is there any program that I can get interest-free loan? Thanks. 3 or 5 years loan. Do you have any suggestion, Micheal?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some governmental programs. You can. I would start by going. I don't know the correct name, but it's like a small business, like a provincial government small business network or office. And I think you can go online on the website and just search BC small business support or something like that. And I think you might find the central office, and they might have a list of banks or governmental agencies that support a business. Also, if you're a member of a certain population or group, under a certain age, gender, whatever, sometimes there are specific programs for specific populations. So you could look at that. But I think it just takes doing a bit of research. Offhand, I don't have any sources for you at this time, but that's where I would start if I were you.
Okay, and I also want to add, so there are some kind of clubs in SFU as well that you can go and search. So they're for entrepreneur, and so they give you lots of information on, I think it is for BD, for the business school of SFU. So they give you lots of information on which kind of places that you can go and look for. In addition, I want to add that you also may want to work on your networking. For the small business and a startup, the networking is really, really important, and it plays a vital role. So you really need to talk to the people of your own group. So you need to make some connections. If you make those connections, then as I show, you may have some connections with the other people of that group, and then you may little by little find some ways that you can get some help from that. And finally, I want to say as just tips from a person who already have the same opportunity as yours. He said that he has done lots of works and efforts on finding some funds, but he was unsuccessful. So his solution for that was to start by its own with a little and just a startup, very a small level company, and then try to work for others. So something like advisor. So there are lots of companies that require some people to give them some, for example, in that case, it was some coding. So there are lots of big companies that outsource their projects. So for them, they already have their own product. By the side of that, they have done lots of these jobs related to some projects, some side projects that other companies give them. So they use them as their funds to investigate on their own product. I think this is the best possible way, and which actually done by another person as well. But you should look for other opportunities like in government or other funder. But I think it's really a tough job. You need to look forward your business plan, and everything should be really good looking and something like that.
So Lulu just posted a link in the chat to the early stage venture funding for entrepreneurs at SFU. So you might want to click on that link. And there's also a question from Paige. I have trouble wrapping my brain around the idea of approaching someone for a coffee chat. For example, how do you even go about starting to make those connections? Yeah, I mean, that's how you go about starting that. Well, first of all, as Pedram mentioned, you want to have a LinkedIn account. Nowadays, that's sort of the industry standard, what people use to make connections. And you start to connect with, if you have an account, but you don't have a lot of connections, you start to connect with people that you know, first of all. And it could be professors, it could be even connecting with myself and Pedram. And then you see our list of connections. And then you can start searching by certain industry or certain profession, whatever area you're studying or that you're wanting to work in. And then you just start making those connections. Sometimes it helps if you add a personal note about why you're connecting, what you're interested in, and then you can direct message those people, and just really it's nothing more than identifying someone at a particular company in a particular role that you're interested in, and just saying, I'm a recent grad from SFU, or whatever your personal story is, and I'd really like to hear what it's like working at this company and in your role. Would you have 10 to 15 minutes to just chat over Zoom or FaceTime next week? I won't take up much of your time. And then usually, I think people are receptive as long as they have the time and they know it's only going to be maybe no more than 15 minutes. And I've done this before. I'm sure Pedram's done this before. Probably a few of you have done this. And it really is the way to get the ball rolling, right? It starts quite small. Looking back on my experience working at Career Services, moving into a program at SFU and then moving into a graduate program, it was all very sequential. And like Pedram said earlier, you can't connect the dots until afterwards. You can't connect them beforehand. And only looking back will you be able to see the connections that you've made. And one thing will lead to another, and it goes back to the whole thing about uncertainty, that you can only plan so much, you can only control so much, but what you can control is taking the initiative and maybe having a goal where it's like, this week I'm going to update my LinkedIn account, get it really professional looking, and then essentially I think it's important you do that before you start making connections, that you have a strong LinkedIn account profile. And then you start making the connections sort of one by one. So you say, this week I'm going to connect try to connect with 5 people, and maybe try to get 1 meeting out of that, and then move forward and make it realistic and don't put the pressure on yourself. Pedram, do you have anything to add?
Yes, that was really helpful. I just want to recap what you said. So yes, it is really important that at first you show a little bit of yourself. So just going to someone and ask them for a coffee chat is not a good idea. So it's better, as just Micheal said, is to set up something for yourself, something like a LinkedIn, or to talk a little bit about yourself and the reason of why you're going to have this kind of coffee chat. And yes, specifying the time and, for example, the situation that you want and the kind of question that you want to ask is all of the factors that are going to make this more probable of having the coffee chat, especially during these times, which is going to be virtual. I think, yes, something around less than 30 minutes is going to be fine for everyone. And having some information about yourself shows them that you have some connection, some level of connectivity with each other, so they seems to be helpful. So if you don't talk about yourself, that person might think that how it could be helpful, but if you have some sort of connections or at least interest, I think it would be a great idea to start connecting with people and build up your connections.
And to give you an example, a couple of weeks ago, somebody contacted me on LinkedIn from Alberta, and she saw my profile. Maybe we were connected to some of the same people, I don't know. However, she found me, and she sent me a direct message on LinkedIn, and said, I noticed you have some experience, with career services at SFU. I'm thinking of moving to Vancouver. I'd really like to find a job at SFU. would you be willing to talk to me for about 15 minutes? And I said, sure, no problem. So we set up a time. We did a Zoom meeting, or maybe it was even a phone call, I think. And we talked. She kept it to 15 minutes. She had a set of questions she really wanted to answer. I did the best I could, and it was a positive meeting. And she's already talked to 2 or 3 other people at SFU, and someday when a position does come open that she's interested in, she'll already have those relationships started. So that's really what it's about.
Yes. So we have another question from Azra. Said that does anyone know if there are any forums or communities for grad students at SFU for professionals and personal development who meet regularly to chat, motivate, and challenge each other? I think there are some, especially in the Facebook groups. We have the community for the grads, where the people come and talk about which course to take, which clubs to join, or something like that. But as I mentioned, always try to take initiative. If there is no situation like that for you to connect, just build it up yourself. So create some, and just set up the rules that, for example, this group is going to be just for motivation and challenging, and something professional, and then try to connect with others and try to advertise on your group. And I think this would be a great idea. Right now, I think there are some group, if I'm not wrong, in the Facebook at least.
Yeah, there are. Yeah,
and there are lots of clubs. Sorry, there are lots of clubs as well. But unfortunately, right now, because of this situation, maybe you cannot do it on person. But there are lots of clubs as well that you can join based on your interest and, for example, what you really want to. So there are some of them that are just for fun. There are lots of them for entrepreneur, for I don't know, for courses or something like that. Just search. There are lots of a list of clubs at SFU that you can search and see what you can do. If not, as I said, you can just build it yourself.
Lulu, do you have any comments on that question?
No, I don't. I don't know any information. I know, like on LinkedIn, there's a SFU alumni group, but I haven't joined that yet, so I'm not sure. But I think that's a great idea. Like, I mean, if we can have our own like working group. Yeah, so we chat, yeah, and then to support each other. I know some of my friends, like they have made a group for like a colored woman, a woman of color, for a working group to help them. Yeah.
Okay, great. Are there any more questions, or does anyone have any sort of issues that they want to to bring up just for discussion?
Actually, I have a couple of questions. I guess, yeah, my questions are quite specific. Yeah, because I've made a very colorful visual resume for myself, but and it's a PDF version, because I used PowerPoint to make my resume. But I heard from some of my friends that actually, like some HR, they have their own tool to select the resume. So they just like find some keywords, but on PDF they can catch that. So I don't know, what's your opinion? Should I just keep using the visual PDF one, or just use a Word document one?
Well, typically, I think it's recommended to start with Word and then maybe convert it to a PDF. I think maybe what you're referring to is the automated programs. Do you know the name of that, Pedram, that technology they use to pull out keywords and do like an automated search of all the resume? What's that called again?
I can't remember it, but yes, there are some programming language that just look for what you have, and it doesn't matter if it is PDF, if it is Word or anything. It just go and search for the words, some keywords, and then based on the counts, it will ignore it or it will accept it. So that's why it's very important to look for the job posting before creating your resume to include those keywords. This is really important, but I don't think it's really important to make it by PowerPoint, by LaTeX, or Word document. It doesn't matter that much.
Right. I think it's called ATS software or something like that. But at any rate, I think Lulu and any others, it's worth looking into that. And I think SFU on their career services website has a whole bunch of information about that, about how to create a resume that's compliant or ready for that type of software. And it is really important to make sure that your resume does meet the sort of technology requirements of some of these, particularly the larger companies. Smaller companies, maybe not so much, but it is an issue that you need to address for sure. And that there also is a topic about how visual a resume should be, as opposed to you have your content and you have format. It's nice to have a very good looking professional resume, but you also, unless you're looking for like a graphic design job or something where you want to showcase your design skills, you want it to be very professional, but not too over the top in terms of design or layout. Again, career services has people who can help you with that. And I had quite a few students who came in and we were able to to look at their resume and together make some changes. And it's a constant sort of process of improvement, and getting your resume more and more marketable, basically. So hope that helps.
I have another question, because when I applied for my co-op job, I remember during the interview, every time like they just ask me, "Oh, do you have any questions for us?" And I don't know, like, do you have any ideas on what kind of question they would like to hear?
Oh, so you're saying in an interview?
Yeah, during the interview, at the end of the interview, they will just ask me, "Oh yeah, do you have any specific questions for us?"
Yeah. I think what they're trying to do there, in some cases, is they want to see how much you've done your homework on the job prior to the interview, how much homework you've done on the company or the organization, and you can indicate that by having some questions planned before you walk into the interview. So if there's something you want to know about the size of the department or the long-term plans, it basically allows you to show your enthusiasm for the job, but also the company or the organization itself. There are lots of kinds of questions you can ask. Again, I think the main purpose of that is if they ask you that question and you say, no, I don't have any questions, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can indicate that, you maybe didn't really prepare for this interview any differently than you would have prepared for another interview at a different company. So it shows that not only does the job matter to you, but also the company is of interest to you. Does that make sense, Lulu?
Yeah. So, do you have any examples of in your experience, when you apply for a job, what kind of question did you usually ask?
Well, the questions that I just, went through are some possibilities. You could also ask, what's the culture like here? What's the, how big is the team? Like, what sort of, what's the sort of environment like here? Questions like that. You can ask about, you can ask them, so how long have you been working here, and how you can ask them all kinds of questions, really. The key thing is to ask too many questions, right? And they should be fairly targeted to those people and the job. Pedram, what do you think?
Yes, I think, yes, it is really important because as they ask you a question, they want to have those interactive relation. So they want you to make sure that you really think about that company. And because if you don't think about something, you probably don't have some question of. And some good question would be, for example, my suggestion would be, if you just look at what the company is right now working on, and then you give them some suggestion. So for example, you said that, okay, I already know that you're working on this project. I was thinking about having to consider this kind of method for your team. What do you think? This is a great question. Another thing, as Michael said, yes, it's going to be something about your future. For example, to what end can I develop in this company? And for example, who can I visit? And what is the dress code? Something like that. Something that shows that you're willing, and show that you have think about joining that company. So some question pops up in your mind.
It also tells them a little bit more. They've obviously asked you a bunch of questions during the interview, right? Which tells them some things about you. But when they ask you, do you have any questions? It shows them sort of what kind of person you are, how you think, how you process information, how curious you are. Because if they're going to hire you and you show some enthusiasm, about the company, about the organization, like Pedram said about maybe some of their programs, maybe you've looked up and see that they have like a certain new program they're launching. You might ask about that. So I noticed you have this new program that's really exciting. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I'm really curious. Again, this would be kind of an interesting person to have here. She's curious. She wants to be involved. She has, it doesn't necessarily matter what you ask, as long as it demonstrates that you're thinking, you're able to critically think and show those kind of skills of social skills as well, right? You're demonstrating different kinds of skills just by asking those questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Somebody posted a great website to compare your resume details to capture job descriptions. So that's something to look at. Jobscan.co. Yeah, I think I'm familiar with that, actually. And then, Micheal, do you know how common it is for universities to do this computer screening first? I don't know how common it is. My impression is that universities don't do that as much as like big companies like, say, Google or Amazon or something like that. I can't say that for sure. It probably depends on the size of the university and sort of where they are, where their HR department is, from a technological point of view. But maybe Pedram, maybe I don't know. It'd be a question, worth looking up, online to see what you can find out, because I'm not sure. My inclination would be that most universities don't use that, but I don't know for sure. Yeah. Any other final questions or comments or concerns that you want to raise before we close this out? How close are we, Lulu, to our time?
We have 10 minutes left, but I would like to draw before the end of our sessions. I'm going to take like 1 minute to do that. So yeah, we got a new question here in the chat box.
Yes, It says, hi, my previous experience was teaching undergrad course in my country. Do you think it's possible to get the same job once I have completed my doctoral program in engineering science, or should I try to look for jobs similar to my recent research activities related to machine learning, HRI, human robotic interaction? And how should I present the resume for these two different aspects? How to make myself confident enough to break the ice, starting to look for the job. Okay, it's a long question, but I tried to answer it short. I think having those teaching experience is really helpful. And this shows you how in-depth knowledge you have about those things. But I think you, at some point, you need to shift into some professional and by professional, I mean some hands-on experience project. So how you can do that is basically what we have talked all day today. So you just need to create your LinkedIn, you need to create your connections and try build your resume, CV, and cover letter, everything, and then try to connect to the people and apply for the opportunities that are available. And try to go, it is my advice, I try to go to some small companies at first, for two reasons. The first is that you are going to be more involved in some small companies other than some big ones, because in big ones you just have some specific task and you don't get familiar with all of the experience encountering in a company. The other reason is that some small companies may be even more exciting and easily to be joined, since they have more opportunities, since they have less number of people applying for, and they're really looking for some new, very motivated person. But big companies actually looking for someone who already passed some of their exploration, and they're just looking for someone who already have some experience. That's my tip for this. Micheal, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just have a couple things. So if you have teaching experience, but it's from a different country, one thing you could, if you're interested in doing that, there are some programs at SFU through the Center for Educational Excellence, which is the teaching and learning department. They have, there's an instructional skills workshop. It's a 3-day intensive program. There's a certificate for university teaching and learning, which is like I think it's an 8-week, once a week intensive teaching certificate. But you could, any graduate student, I believe, I think you have to do the instructional skills workshop first, and then you can do this other one, but it gives you certification, and certification locally, which might help you get teaching work, particularly since you already have experience. And that's one thing to consider. And then in terms of whether you should look for similar jobs to your recent research activities, that's really up to you. That's really up to you if you're interested in that work. Presumably because you've done research, you know, you have an interest in that area. So it's really up to you on how, you know, how you want to do that. If you want to do the research and you also want to teach, in that case, I would suggest having 2 different resumes, one for teaching and one for that other research type work, particularly if that's working in you know, a company somewhere that does that research. And in terms of creating those 2 different resumes, again, you could go to career services and get some help with that. But it really is creating a targeted resume for those 2 different jobs, because they're 2 very different types of work, in, you know, the way I see it. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah, for sure. Hope that helps.